The asphalt radiated heat, a tangible wave pressing down on Isabelle Moreau as she cautiously approached the scene. The air, thick with the stench of exhaust and simmering frustration, clung to her like a suffocating shroud. The cacophony of honking horns, the irritated shouts of stranded drivers, the distant wail of a frustrated semi, all of it created a swirling vortex of chaos that threatened to overwhelm her senses. Yet, despite the pandemonium, a small voice inside her urged her to slow down, to observe, to truly see what was happening. The dispatcher's earlier description, "Lynx kitten disrupting traffic, refusing to yield," now seemed like a gross understatement. This wasn't mere disruption, it was a standoff, a tiny David facing a Goliath of steel and impatience. The creature, no bigger than a well-fed house cat, stood its ground with a defiance that belied its size. Its spotted coat, usually a camouflage masterpiece amidst the dappled light of the forest, was now coated in a layer of grime and exhaust fumes, rendering it a visible beacon in the harsh, unforgiving landscape of the highway. As Isabelle moved closer, she could discern the nuances of the kitten's distress. Its amber eyes, normally pools of primal instinct, were now wide with a desperate plea, darting from vehicle to vehicle, driver to driver, searching for something, anything, in the sea of indifference. Its delicate body trembled visibly, a rapid, almost frantic vibration that spoke of profound fear and exhaustion. The pitiful yelp it emitted every few moments wasn't just a cry of loneliness. It was a desperate, almost heartbreaking call for help, a sound that resonated deep within Isabelle's own well of empathy. But it wasn't just fear that Isabelle detected. There was something else there, a spark of intelligence, a hint of purpose that defied the animal's apparent vulnerability. The set of its small, pointed ears, tilted forward with an unwavering focus, suggested a clear intention. The way it held its ground, despite the looming threat of the surrounding vehicles, spoke of a determination that transcended its diminutive stature. Isabelle stopped a few feet away, lowering her gaze to avoid intimidating the already anxious creature. The oppressive heat, the cacophony of noise, the frustration of the stranded drivers, all of it faded into the background as she focused solely on the lynx. She noticed the subtle shift in its weight, the almost imperceptible favoring of one hind leg. Something was definitely wrong. This wasn't just a lost or frightened animal. This was a creature in need, a creature trying to communicate something vital, something urgent. The question now was, what was it trying to say? And how could she, Isabelle Moreau, possibly understand? A wave of protectiveness washed over her, the same instinct that kicked in when she responded to calls involving vulnerable children. This lynx, in its own way, needed her help, and Isabelle was determined to provide it. Isabelle held her breath, her heart pounding against her ribs, as the lynx tentatively nudged her hand again, its soft fur brushing against her skin. The fragile connection they had established hung precariously in the balance, and she knew that any sudden movement could shatter it, sending the frightened animal fleeing back into the dangerous flow of traffic. So she remained still, a statue carved from patience, her mind racing, piecing together the fragments of information that swirled within her. "Hey there, little one," she murmured again, her voice barely above a whisper. "Easy now. I'm just trying to help." She slowly shifted her hand, angling it to get a better view of the device attached to the lynx's leg. It was definitely not something she recognized. Tracking collars, even the more sophisticated GPS models, were usually bulky and cumbersome, designed to withstand the rigors of life in the wild. This device was sleek and compact, almost elegant in its design, and crafted from a polished metal that gleamed in the afternoon sun. Her fingers, accustomed to the textured grip of her service weapon, now moved with delicate precision as she traced the outline of the device. It was secured by a nylon strap that appeared surprisingly well-fitted, suggesting it hadn't been haphazardly attached. The device itself was studded with small buttons, a tiny display screen that was currently blank, and a slender antenna that pointed skyward. It looked almost like a miniature piece of high-tech equipment, utterly out of place on a wild animal. As her fingers explored the smooth surface, she discovered a small, almost invisible inscription etched into the metal, a series of numbers and letters so faint they were barely discernible to the naked eye. Squinting, Isabelle carefully deciphered the inscription. It was then that a chill snaked its way down her spine, a sudden wave of unease washing over her. The inscription wasn't a serial number, or a manufacturer's mark, or anything she could readily identify. It was something else, something that resonated with a sense of urgency, of hidden meaning. It was a code. A cold premonition settled in her stomach. This wasn't just a lost lynx, and this wasn't just some random device. This was a message, a signal of some kind, and the lynx was the unwitting messenger. The weight of that realization settled heavily on her shoulders. Carefully, she withdrew her hand, breaking the connection with the lynx. She needed to think, to analyze, to figure out what this all meant. Reaching for her radio, she shielded the microphone from the wind and spoke with deliberate calm. "Dispatch, this is Moreau. I need to update my previous request. In addition to backup and wildlife expertise, I also need someone who can identify specialized equipment. I've found a device attached to the lynx, possibly high-tech. It has an inscription. I'll relay it when backup arrives. Also, be advised, there's something about this situation that doesn't feel right. Proceed with caution. Over." While waiting for backup, Isabel returned her attention to the animal, which was now pacing nervously. She noticed a thin blue line along where the device was connected to its leg. Squinting closer, she noticed it was a blue marker. It was then she realized the lynx was not wild. This was getting stranger and stranger by the minute. As she looked closer, she saw the device had an on-off switch. Suddenly, she heard the device beep. What had she stumbled into? The air in Blackwood Forest, already thick with anticipation, vibrated with a newfound urgency as Isabel and Officer Dubois picked up the subtle trail. Each snapped twig, each disturbed patch of leaves, served as a silent guide, leading them deeper into the heart of the ancient woods. The sunlight, already filtered through the dense canopy, began to fade, casting long, eerie shadows that danced around them like restless spirits. "He knows these woods like the back of his hand," Officer Dubois murmured, his voice hushed with a mixture of respect and concern. "If he's lost or injured, something serious must have happened." Isabel nodded, her gaze sweeping the surrounding trees, her senses on high alert. The forest, usually a place of tranquil beauty, now felt menacing, each rustle of leaves, each snap of a branch, sounding like a warning. The weight of the missing naturalist's fate pressed heavily on her shoulders. Antoine Dubois was not just a local expert, he was a vital part of the community, a passionate advocate for the preservation of the natural world. The thought of him lost and alone in this unforgiving wilderness was unbearable. Suddenly, the trail took a sharp turn, leading them towards a dense thicket of thorny bushes. Officer Dubois pulled out a machete, carefully clearing a path through the tangled vegetation. As they emerged on the other side, they found themselves in a small clearing, bathed in an ethereal, almost otherworldly light. And there it was. The lynx. It wasn't pacing nervously, or huddled in fear, as they had expected. It was sitting patiently at the edge of the clearing, its amber eyes fixed on them with an intensity that sent a shiver down Isabel's spine. It was as if it had been waiting for them, knowing they would follow, knowing they were the only ones who could help. That's incredible," Officer Dubois breathed, his voice filled with awe. "It's like it knew we were coming." Isabel, however, was more focused on the scene before her. The clearing was littered with signs of a struggle. A discarded backpack lay on the ground, its contents spilling out onto the forest floor, a tattered map, a half-eaten energy bar, a crumpled first aid kit. A few feet away, a large branch lay broken and twisted, its splintered end pointing accusingly towards a nearby thicket. But it was the blood that caught her attention. Dark, crimson stains splattered across the leaves and the exposed roots of a nearby tree. The sight of it sent a jolt of adrenaline through her veins. This wasn't just a case of a lost hiker, this was a rescue mission, and time was of the essence. As she surveyed the scene, Isabel noticed something else, something that sent a wave of hope surging through her. The lynx was no longer simply watching them. It was nudging its nose towards the thicket, its tail twitching with barely suppressed excitement. It was trying to lead them, to show them the way. "All right, little one," Isabel said, her voice firm but gentle. "Show us where he is. Show us where Antoine is." With a soft yelp, the lynx turned and disappeared into the thicket, leaving Isabelle and Officer Dubois to follow, their hearts pounding with anticipation and a growing sense of dread. Whatever lay ahead, they knew it wouldn't be easy. But they also knew that with the help of this extraordinary animal, they had a fighting chance of finding Antoine Dubois and bringing him home safe. As she plunged into the forest thicket, she saw more blood. This was not good. Exhaustion clung to Isabelle like the humidity of the Blackwood forest, yet a surge of adrenaline kept her sharp, focused on the man lying injured at the bottom of the ravine. Antoine Dubois' pale face was a stark contrast to the vibrant greenery surrounding him, a testament to the 2 days he'd spent battling the elements and the crushing weight of a fallen tree. His eyes, though filled with pain, held a spark of recognition and profound relief. You actually found me," Antoine rasped, his voice a mere whisper carried on the still forest air. He reached a trembling hand towards the small creature nestled against his side, his fingers gently stroking the soft fur of Lumiere. She really did it." As Isabelle and Officer Dubois worked swiftly and efficiently, assessing Antoine's injuries and providing what rudimentary first aid they could muster with the supplies from his battered backpack, Antoine pieced together the story of his ordeal. The sudden storm, the deafening crack of lightning, the earth-shattering fall of the ancient oak, it had all happened in a blur. He'd woken to agonizing pain, pinned beneath the heavy branch, his leg twisted at an impossible angle. "I knew I was in deep trouble," he recounted, his breath catching in his chest with each word. "My phone was dead, my radio smashed. I couldn't even reach my emergency whistle." Despair had begun to creep in, a chilling realization that he was utterly alone, at the mercy of the unforgiving forest. But then, a flicker of hope had ignited within him. Lumiere, a young lynx he'd been rehabilitating, had been with him that day, part of a long-term program to prepare her for release back into the wild. He had spent countless hours training her, not through forceful commands or rigid discipline, but through gentle encouragement and positive reinforcement, fostering a bond of trust and understanding. He had taught her to associate humans with safety, to seek help when she felt threatened or distressed. "It was a long shot, I know," Antoine admitted, his gaze shifting to Lumiere, who returned his gaze with unwavering loyalty. "But I figured it was worth a try." With trembling hands he had managed to attach his distress beacon to Lumiere's makeshift collar, whispering words of encouragement and hope. "Go, Lumiere," he'd urged. "Find someone. Find help." He had watched, his heart aching with a mixture of hope and doubt, as Lumiere had disappeared into the undergrowth, her small form swallowed by the vast expanse of the forest. He had waited, praying that his training had been enough, that his trust in this extraordinary animal hadn't been misplaced. Now, as he lay cradled in the arms of his rescuers, with Lumiere by his side, he knew that his faith had been justified. This small, wild creature had defied all expectations, overcoming her natural instincts to seek out human assistance and lead them, against all odds, to his rescue. She's more than just an animal," Antoine murmured, his eyes shining with a profound sense of wonder and gratitude. She's my hero." Isabelle, kneeling beside Antoine, felt a lump form in her throat. She had witnessed countless acts of bravery and selflessness in her years as an investigator, but nothing quite like this. This wasn't a human sacrificing themselves for another human, it was a wild animal, driven by an almost unexplainable sense of loyalty and compassion, risking its own life to save the life of its rescuer. As they waited for the rescue team to arrive, battling against the fading light and the encroaching darkness, Isabelle couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and humility. She had come to the Blackwood forest expecting to solve a mystery, but she had stumbled upon something far more profound, a testament to the extraordinary connection between humans and animals, a shining example of the power of trust and understanding to bridge the gap between two seemingly disparate worlds. As the helicopter arrived to take Antoine away, she smiled as she knew this was not the end of the story. Lumiere had become a local celebrity. The media frenzy surrounding Antoine Dubois and Lumiere reached a fever pitch. The small, rural town that had once been known for its quiet charm was now a bustling hub of reporters, camera crews, and curious onlookers, all eager to catch a glimpse of the hero cat and hear the story of her daring rescue. The local animal shelter, ill-equipped to handle the media attention and the outpouring of public support, quickly became overwhelmed. Phone lines were constantly ringing, the shelter's website crashed under the weight of unprecedented traffic, and donations, both monetary and in-kind, flooded in from across the globe. It was clear that Lumiere's story had struck a chord with people from all walks of life, tapping into a deep well of empathy and a longing for connection with the natural world. Isabelle, caught in the middle of the whirlwind, found herself fielding countless calls from reporters, animal welfare organizations, and even celebrities, all seeking information about Lumiere and her future. She quickly realized that something had to be done to manage the situation, to channel the overwhelming public support into a constructive force for good. She contacted the Dubois family, offering her assistance in navigating the complexities of the media landscape and coordinating the various offers of help. They were, understandably, still reeling from the ordeal, but they recognized the potential to use Lumiere's story to promote wildlife conservation and rehabilitation. Together, they formed a small team, comprised of local officials, animal experts, and community volunteers, to create a formal plan for Lumiere's future. The first priority was to ensure her well-being, providing her with a safe and nurturing environment where she could recover from her ordeal and receive the specialized care she needed. They reached out to a renowned animal behaviorist, Dr. Eleanor Vance, who specialized in working with rescued wildlife, to develop a rehabilitation plan tailored to Lumiere's unique needs. Dr. Vance, after a thorough assessment, confirmed what Isabelle had suspected all along: Lumiere was an extraordinary animal, possessing an exceptional level of intelligence and an unusual capacity for bonding with humans. She proposed a novel approach to Lumiere's rehabilitation, one that focused not on minimizing human contact, but on fostering a carefully curated relationship with a select group of caregivers, allowing Lumiere to develop her natural abilities while also providing her with the opportunity to interact with people in a positive and meaningful way. The plan was met with some skepticism from traditional wildlife experts, who argued that Lumiere should be released back into the wild as soon as possible. But Isabelle and the Dubois family were convinced that Dr. Vance's approach was the right one. They believed that Lumiere had the potential to become something more than just a rehabilitated animal. She had the potential to become an ambassador for her species, a symbol of hope and inspiration for people around the world. With the support of the community and the guidance of Dr. Vance, they began to develop a plan for a wildlife conservation and education center, a place where Lumiere could live in a naturalistic environment, interact with visitors, and educate them about the importance of protecting lynx and other native species. The center would also serve as a rehabilitation facility for injured and orphaned wildlife, providing a much-needed resource for the region. As the plans for the center began to take shape, Isabelle realized that Lumiere's legacy was going to extend far beyond that highway. With a little luck and a lot of help, Lumiere's light would shine on so many species that needed protection. She decided to dedicate a part of herself to making sure it happened. The initial concept for the Wildlife Conservation and Education Center blossomed into something far grander than anyone could have initially imagined. With the surging tide of donations, the pro bono services offered by architects, construction workers, and educators, and the unwavering dedication of the community, the plans expanded to encompass a groundbreaking animal ambassador program. The core philosophy of the program, championed by Dr. Vance and wholeheartedly embraced by Isabelle and the Dubois family, was a radical departure from traditional wildlife conservation methods. Instead of simply rescuing, rehabilitating, and releasing animals back into the wild, the Animal Ambassador program sought to create a bridge between the human and animal worlds, fostering a deeper understanding and appreciation for the natural world. The program would identify and train animals that, for various reasons, were deemed unsuitable for complete release back into the wild. This could include animals with permanent injuries that would hinder their survival, animals that had become too habituated to human contact, or animals, like Lumiere, who possessed unique personalities and demonstrated a remarkable capacity for interacting with humans. These carefully selected animals would become ambassadors, living in naturalistic habitats within the center and participating in educational programs designed to engage visitors and inspire a sense of stewardship for the environment. The ambassadors would serve as living examples of the challenges faced by wildlife and the importance of conservation efforts, offering visitors a unique and personal connection to the natural world. The key to the program's success, Dr. Vance emphasized, lay in ethical and respectful animal handling. The ambassadors would never be forced to perform tricks or participate in activities that were contrary to their natural instincts. Instead, the program would focus on showcasing their unique abilities and personalities, creating opportunities for positive interactions with humans that fostered mutual respect and understanding. Lumiere, of course, would be the star of the show. Her story of resilience and loyalty had already captivated the world, and her presence at the center would serve as a powerful symbol of hope and inspiration. Dr. Vance envisioned Lumiere participating in educational presentations, showcasing her natural hunting skills, and interacting with visitors in a controlled and supervised environment, demonstrating the importance of protecting lynx habitats and promoting responsible wildlife management. But the Animal Ambassador program was not just about entertainment or education, it was about driving real change. A portion of the center's revenue would be dedicated to funding wildlife conservation efforts both locally and globally, supporting research projects, habitat restoration initiatives, and anti-poaching patrols. The program would also partner with local schools and community organizations to provide educational outreach programs, reaching underserved populations and fostering a new generation of conservation leaders. Isabel, deeply involved in every aspect of the program's development, felt a sense of purpose she had never experienced before. She had always been drawn to protecting the vulnerable, whether it was a child in a domestic dispute or a community struggling with crime. Now, she saw an opportunity to extend that protection to the animal kingdom, to become a voice for those who could not speak for themselves. Leaving the force after 15 years, Isabel agreed to become director of this new, innovative organization. While some of her former colleagues were shocked and disappointed, the truth was, after the Lumiere story, she could no longer handle the day-to-day police grind. The grand opening of the Wildlife Conservation and Education Center, with Lumiere as its shining star, was just the beginning. It was the dawn of a new era in wildlife conservation, an era where humans and animals could coexist in harmony, working together to protect the planet for future generations. Lumiere's light was about to shine on the whole world. Months after the groundbreaking ceremony for the Wildlife Conservation and Education Center, Isabel found herself standing beneath a canopy of sycamore trees, the crisp autumn air swirling around her. The scent of damp earth and decaying leaves filled her nostrils, a familiar and comforting aroma that reminded her of her childhood spent exploring the woods behind her grandmother's farm. She watched as construction workers, a small army of volunteers, and skilled tradespeople buzzed around the site, a symphony of hammers, saws, and heavy machinery creating a cacophony of sound. The framework of the center was beginning to take shape, its soaring arches and expansive windows promising a space that would seamlessly blend with the surrounding natural landscape. Despite the chaos and the sheer magnitude of the project, Isabel felt a sense of calm, a quiet confidence that everything was proceeding according to plan. The team had faced numerous challenges, unexpected delays, budget constraints, bureaucratic hurdles, but each obstacle had been met with unwavering determination and a collaborative spirit that had become the hallmark of the project. Dr. Vance, ever the visionary, had assembled a team of world-class animal behaviorists, educators, and conservationists, each bringing their unique expertise to the table. The habitats for the animal ambassadors were meticulously designed to mimic their natural environments, providing them with ample space to roam, explore, and engage in their natural behaviors. The educational exhibits were being crafted with the latest technology and interactive displays, promising a learning experience that would be both engaging and informative. Isabel was particularly excited about the plans for the Lumiere exhibit. It would be a multisensory experience, allowing visitors to learn about the life of a lynx through interactive displays, videos, and even simulated tracking exercises. The exhibit would also highlight Lumiere's extraordinary story, showcasing her intelligence, loyalty, and unwavering determination. In the meantime, Lumiere herself was thriving under Dr. Vance's care. She had adjusted remarkably well to her new surroundings, forming strong bonds with her caregivers and participating enthusiastically in the training sessions designed to prepare her for her role as an animal ambassador. Isabelle made it a point to visit Lumiere every week, finding solace and inspiration in the presence of the extraordinary animal. Their bond had deepened over the months, transcending the boundaries of language and species. Isabelle found herself drawn to Lumiere's quiet strength, her unwavering loyalty, and her uncanny ability to connect with people on a deep and emotional level. She knew that Lumiere was not just an animal, she was a symbol of hope, a reminder of the power of compassion and the importance of protecting the natural world. Walking towards the nearly completed rehabilitation area, her phone vibrated. It was Jean Dubois asking if she was available to meet later that day. She accepted, feeling a rush of joy. The two had formed a friendship in the aftermath of his rescue, each finding support in the other. As the opening date for the Wildlife Conservation and Education Center drew closer, Isabelle felt a growing sense of anticipation. She knew that the center had the potential to transform the community, to create a hub for conservation and education that would inspire people for generations to come. But more than that, she believed that the center had the potential to change the world. By fostering a deeper understanding and appreciation for the natural world, by showcasing the extraordinary connections between humans and animals, and by empowering people to take action to protect the planet, the Wildlife Conservation and Education Center could become a beacon of hope in a world that desperately needed it. The future was here, and Isabelle was ready. The grand opening of the Wildlife Conservation and Education Center dawned bright and clear, a perfect autumn day that felt like a benediction on the culmination of months of tireless effort. A vibrant energy permeated the air as crowds began to gather, drawn by the promise of a unique and transformative experience. Families with children, wildlife enthusiasts, conservation activists, and curious onlookers alike thronged the entrance gates, eager to explore the center's wonders and connect with its remarkable inhabitants. Isabelle, standing on a makeshift stage alongside Jean Dubois, Dr. Vance, and a host of local dignitaries, surveyed the scene with a mixture of pride and humility. It was surreal, almost dreamlike, to see the transformation that had taken place in such a short amount of time. What had once been a barren field was now a vibrant ecosystem, a sanctuary for both wildlife and the human spirit. The opening ceremony was a tapestry of heartfelt speeches, captivating presentations, and inspiring performances, each celebrating the center's mission and highlighting the importance of wildlife conservation. But the true highlight of the day was the unveiling of the Animal Ambassador Program. One by one, the ambassadors were introduced to the crowd, each with their own unique story of rescue, rehabilitation, and resilience. A majestic bald eagle, rescued from a fishing line entanglement, soared overhead, its piercing gaze captivating the audience. A playful river otter, orphaned at a young age, frolicked in its custom-designed habitat, its antics eliciting laughter and delight. A wise old great horned owl, blinded by a collision with a car, perched stoically on its handler's arm, its presence a reminder of the dangers faced by wildlife in an increasingly human-dominated world. But it was Lumiere who stole the show. As she was led onto the stage, her amber eyes scanned the crowd with a mixture of curiosity and calm. A hush fell over the audience as Jean Dubois began to recount her extraordinary story, his voice filled with emotion. He spoke of her intelligence, her loyalty, and her unwavering determination to find help when he was injured and alone in the forest. As he spoke, Lumiere remained perfectly still, her gaze fixed on Jean, as if listening intently to every word. The connection between them was palpable, a testament to the profound bond that had formed between a human and a wild animal. When Jean finished his story, he turned to Lumiere, his eyes shining with affection. "Lumiere," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "you are more than just a lynx. You are an ambassador for your species, a symbol of hope and inspiration for all of us. Thank you for everything you have done." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd as Lumiere, as if understanding Jean's words, stepped forward and gently nuzzled his hand, her soft fur brushing against his skin. The moment was electric, a tangible manifestation of the extraordinary connection between humans and animals. As the ceremony drew to a close, Isabel watched as the crowd dispersed, eager to explore the center's exhibits and connect with its animal ambassadors. She knew that this was just the beginning, that the center had the potential to transform the community and the world, inspiring generations to come to protect the planet and all its magnificent creatures. The grand opening had been a success. The future of the center was bright. Later, as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the center's grounds, Isabel found herself standing alone in front of Lumiere's habitat. The lynx, now relaxed and at ease, was perched on a rock outcropping, her amber eyes gleaming in the fading light. Isabel approached the habitat, drawn by an irresistible force. As she stood there, gazing at the extraordinary animal, she felt a sense of gratitude wash over her. She had stumbled upon something truly special, a connection that had transformed her life and given her a new sense of purpose. The highway incident was now long in the past, but it would always be with her. The final rays of the setting sun painted the sky in a riot of colors, casting long, ethereal shadows across the grounds of the Wildlife Conservation and Education Center. The initial throngs of visitors had thinned, replaced by a more contemplative crowd, lingering to absorb the tranquility of the space and reflect on the day's transformative experiences. Isabel, her heart brimming with a quiet satisfaction, found herself drawn towards Lumiere's expansive habitat, a meticulously crafted replica of the lynx's natural woodland environment. The structure provided plenty of space for roaming, including rocky outcroppings for climbing, dense thickets for seclusion, and a gently cascading stream for drinking and bathing. She could see Lumiere's every need had been anticipated and met, giving her the freedom to be a lynx. As she approached, Lumiere, perched regally on a rocky outcropping, acknowledged her presence with a subtle tilt of her head, her amber eyes gleaming with an almost knowing intelligence. It was an unspoken greeting, a silent acknowledgement of the bond they shared. A wave of emotion washed over Isabel as she gazed at the extraordinary animal. It was hard to believe that just months ago, Lumiere had been a frightened and injured kitten, desperately seeking help on a busy highway. Now, she was a symbol of hope, a testament to the power of compassion, and an ambassador for her species, inspiring people around the world to connect with the natural world. "You've come a long way, haven't you, girl?" Isabel murmured softly, her voice barely audible above the gentle rustling of the leaves. Lumiere, as if understanding her words, let out a soft purr, a low rumble that vibrated through the air. She then rose gracefully to her feet, her lithe body moving with effortless agility, and padded towards the edge of the habitat, stopping just a few feet from where Isabel stood. For a long moment, they simply stood there, gazing at each other, a human and a lynx, connected by an invisible thread of understanding and respect. Isabel could see the intelligence sparkling in Lumiere's eyes, the wisdom that belied her young age. She knew that this animal had seen things, had experienced things, that she could only imagine. And yet, despite the hardships she had faced, Lumiere had emerged with her spirit intact, her loyalty unwavering, and her ability to connect with others undiminished. She was a survivor, a beacon of hope in a world that often seemed dark and unforgiving. As the last rays of sunlight faded, casting a golden glow on Lumiere's fur, Isabel felt a profound sense of gratitude. She was grateful for the opportunity to have played a part in Lumiere's story, grateful for the lessons she had learned from the extraordinary animal, and grateful for the chance to dedicate her life to protecting the natural world. She knew that the journey ahead would not always be easy. There would be challenges to face, obstacles to overcome, and setbacks to endure. But she also knew that she was not alone. She had the support of a dedicated team, the unwavering commitment of the community, and the inspiration of Lumiere, the lynx who had changed her life forever. As she turned to leave, she smiled, knowing that the grand opening of the Wildlife Conservation and Education Center was not just an end, but a beginning. It was the start of a new chapter in the story of human-animal relationships, a story that would be written with compassion, understanding, and a deep respect for the delicate balance of the natural world. The light was dim, but Lumiere's light would shine on. As Isabel turned to leave Lumiere's habitat, A soft voice called out her name. It was Jean Dubois, his face etched with a weary but contented smile. He was leaning against a nearby fence post, his gaze fixed on the setting sun. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he murmured, his voice barely audible above the chirping of crickets. "To think, just a few months ago, I was lying injured in the forest, wondering if I would ever see the sun rise again." Isabelle nodded, joining him at the fence post. "It's incredible what you and Lumiere have accomplished," she said, her voice filled with admiration. "This center is a testament to your vision and your dedication." Jean chuckled softly. "It wasn't just me," he said, glancing at Isabelle. "You played a crucial role in all of this. If it weren't for you, Lumiere might have ended up lost in the system or worse, hit by a car on that highway. And well, I might not be here at all." Isabelle shrugged modestly. "I was just doing my job," she said. "Anyone would have done the same." Jean shook his head. "I don't think so," he said. "You saw something in Lumiere that others might have missed. You recognized her intelligence, her determination, her spirit. You were the first one to believe in her, and that made all the difference." A comfortable silence settled between them, broken only by the gentle sounds of the forest. As the last sliver of the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Jean turned to Isabelle, his eyes filled with warmth. "You know," he said, "Lumiere has always had a special connection with you. I've seen it in the way she looks at you, the way she responds to your voice. It's like she knows that you're the one who set everything in motion, the one who gave her a chance to shine." Isabelle felt a blush rising to her cheeks. "I just feel a connection with her, that's all," she said, her voice slightly flustered. "There's nothing just about it," Jean said with a smile. "Some connections are meant to be, and yours with Lumiere is one of them. She wants you to see something." As Isabelle walked closer to the habitat, she noticed the look Lumiere had for her. She was practically begging her to come in. Turning to Jean, she asked hesitantly, Do you think it would be all right if I went in?" Jean smiled. "Of course." Stepping inside the structure, the pair were alone with the lynx. For the longest time, they just stared at each other. All of a sudden, Lumiere rushed forward and began rubbing against Isabelle. As Isabelle bent down to pet the lynx, she realized that this would be her life now. This day had been a transformative experience for her, a moment that would forever alter the course of her life. She had come to the Wildlife Conservation and Education Center as an investigator, seeking to solve a mystery. She had left as a champion for the natural world, ready to dedicate her life to protecting the vulnerable and inspiring others to do the same. And now, a lynx was nuzzling her as thanks. She had never felt more grateful. The bond between humans and animals, once a distant concept, was now a living, breathing reality in her life. And she knew, with unwavering certainty, that it was a bond worth fighting for, a bond that had the power to change the world. As she continued to pet Lumiere, she felt she was finally home.